One of my girlfriends mentioned that her boyfriend was lying in bed the next morning and kept making a groan. The night prior was their first time being intimate. They had been together for 6 months. He wasn't complaining or anything, but she was kind of concerned, so she asked him what was up. He told her it had been a while for him and his hips were sore. She didn't want to press any further. She said she kissed him and laid on his chest, thanking the heavens that it had been a while for him. So, she believes him, of course. But I never knew this was a thing. With that, this also has me wondering if there are other things that women may not know that a man physically or mentally goes through after intercourse. Are sore hips a consequence? What are other things? Please educate or elaborate if possible. Story 1, refractory period. We can't always go again. I tried recently with a new girlfriend, and at first my penis cooperated, but then it just went limp and I had to stop. I had to reassure her that I didn't get turned off. My body just doesn't work like that. Story 2. That first urination after ejaculating can and generally will aim itself in any direction that is not the toilet, even if you are aiming at the center of the water. The hole gets a tiny bit stuck together from the semen, so it's kind of like a hose pipe when you cover the tip with your thumb a little when it starts. Sit for that urine. Some useless information for the ladies that didn't know. Story 3. I think a lot of misunderstandings could be cleared up if we all were just a bit more educated on the physical and biochemical reactions that happen during and after sex. While many are quick to attribute postcoital behaviors to personal attitudes or cultural stereotypes, there is actually a fascinating science behind it. Even the phenomenon of getting tired after sex, for men, is deeply rooted in hormonal changes, as many have pointed out. I have also read that evolutionary biologists believe this could be nature's way of keeping the man close to the partner immediately after copulation, ensuring a better chance of protection and bonding, though admittedly, in modern times it just translates to a quick nap. And as for the idea of switching up who takes the lead in bed, I am all for it. A little variety never hurt anyone, and it can actually make the experience more pleasurable and less physically straining for both parties. Communication is key, though. Instead of assuming your partner would not be into it, having an open conversation could lead to more enjoyable experiences for both. Sometimes what holds us back from these dialogues is not discomfort with the topic, but rather a hesitation to appear vulnerable or less confident. If we can shift the narrative to see these talks as another form of intimacy, who knows how much better our sexual relationships could be. Story 4. Testicle pain can be an issue too. It may have been his muscles. But for me, when my desire dropped, my physical need lagged behind. I found that if I waited too long between orgasms, my testicles hurt. But when I did relieve myself to end the discomfort, that too caused my other testicle to feel even more pain. Sometimes it radiated up into my hips. Felt like I'd been punched in the groin and pelvis. It still happens sometimes, but I've managed to significantly stretch the time between occurrences. Probably the only good point of staying in a dead bedroom too long. It does affect my friends with benefits now, though. Luckily, most of them have been really nice about it. Story 5. Not a guy, but my boyfriend's body twitches involuntarily after sex or oral sex. I love it. The more he twitches, the more I know I did a good job. He's the only guy I've dated that does this, and I'm obsessed. Story 6. Just because we don't always want to cuddle afterward doesn't mean we don't like you or want to. We just put in work for multiple rounds, and our bodies are already hot as can be. I do not want to be touched right after while I'm sweating and panting. Story 7. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding around postcoital experiences for both sexes. Women might feel hurt if their partner seems disinterested or too tired for afterplay, mistaking it as a lack of emotional connection when, in reality, it's just a biological response. For men, voicing that they would like their partners to take the lead more often could be misinterpreted as laziness or disinterest, when it's really about seeking balance and the desire to enjoy the moment in a different way. It's not just about avoiding fatigue. It's about enjoying the intimacy and connection from another perspective. As for the pain some experience, most people don't realize that intense physical exertion, and let's be honest, good sex can be quite the workout, can lead to soreness just like any other physical activity. So maybe instead of being quick to judge or jump to conclusions, We should all aim for openness and understanding about the physical and emotional responses that follow sex. That way, everyone feels more comfortable sharing and might just get a better experience out of it. After all, communication is key, and maybe if we're honest about these experiences, we'd see fewer couples sleeping back to back and more snuggling post-coitus, biology notwithstanding. Story 8. I was on vacation last week and didn't get a chance for any private time or intimacy with my wife due to the sleeping arrangements. Finally had a few hours to myself and relaxed. I experienced an achy, burning feeling for a while afterward. It's not the first time that's happened, but I had forgotten this can occur. Anyone else have that issue? I usually don't wait that long between each session. It was like discomfort but for the urethra. Story 9. Smaller sac after a guy releases and the penis is sensitive to touch. This is what I noticed from my boyfriend. Oh, and he confirmed that post-nut clarity is a real thing with guys. Story 10. Women generally have higher levels of oxytocin than men. It is the bonding hormone. Women bond with people more quickly because of this. You might feel like you are part of a bond doing many things in your daily lives to a much higher degree than men. Sex gives men a lot more oxytocin than women, especially after orgasm. If a man stays close to their partner immediately after orgasm, then he is going to feel close and bonded. I would personally appreciate it if women could wait about 30 seconds to a minute before using the bathroom so I can experience the bonding while the oxytocin is still present. By the time they go and clean up, the oxytocin is gone, and the cuddling is not as enjoyable. A side note to women: if your relationship is failing, please do not replace all your intimacy with sex because you feel like it is more superficial. You are causing your partner, whom you are about to break up with, to bond with you deeply, thereby making the breakup even more difficult for them. Story 11. We fake orgasms. It is easy with a condom and even without. We get insecure and up in our heads too. When I feel like I'm not going to be able to, then I won't be able to, even though I'm hard and all. As for after sex, you probably know most of it already. It's not that we are necessarily sleepy or unable. The orgasm is just such a hit that we can be content just laying there with all that serotonin. You feel so high and validated and happy that you just want to calmly enjoy it. Story 12. I know that my husband tries to stay awake for as long as possible, but we have the best sleep after the act. When I'm overtired and struggling to sleep, we sometimes do it just so that both of us can get some decent rest. Story 13. I have noticed that while doing the deed, I don't really feel pain, especially dull aching pain. However, as soon as I orgasm, the pain returns or is joined by new pain in hips, knees, etc. Some positions can make people a bit sore, adding to that age and fitness level. Story 14. That something weird happens in the brain. I know people joke and call it post-nut clarity, but your thought pattern can do a complete 180 in a second, out of nowhere, just totally change what you were thinking and feeling. Personally, I hate it. Story 15. Sex is fun in the beginning, but it turns into a workout. We're basically doing full-body workouts with a 10-second dash to a finish line, not knowing if we got a good score or not. So we are tired. That's why it's easy when we're younger but a strain as we're older. The refractory period is pretty much the next day, depending on health. Story 16. After I ejaculate, the tip of my penis becomes incredibly sensitive. It is so sensitive that it actually hurts to stimulate it. I assume this happens with most men. I'm just uncertain as to whether or not all of us find that sensation unpleasant. Story 17. After some good rough sex, I will be a little sore. I think a lot of women underestimate how much effort it takes. I know women who, after using a strap-on for the first time on a partner, were shocked at how tired they were afterward. Story 18. I have no clue if it's just me or a general guy thing, but personally, every time after sex I have a muscle in the back of my left knee that starts twitching and hurting. It happens very rarely in other circumstances too, but it's very regularly happening after sex. Story 19. After ejaculating, I'm not able to move and just want to sleep for a while. Women seem to be able to go on forever. I'm exhausted at the end of the first round and can't do it again for at least a few hours or more. The refractory period is very long for a man. I sometimes see posts online that claim women have it too, but it's not even close. We can't really experience things like multiple orgasms as a man, and orgasms are much smaller and shorter too. Story 20. If it has been a while for me, like a month or more, my prostate might rebel against me. It is a bit larger than usual, so sometimes it will just say no, you cannot relax, and I just have this tension for about 10 minutes that feels like an hour. Thankfully, I am married to a woman who actually understands what intimacy in a partnership should be like and actually loves me, so I have not had this in 6 years. Story 21. I had a hernia many years ago, and the site of the surgery will get inflamed and really painful after an orgasm occasionally. I have to lay down and wince for a couple of minutes. Story 22. I think a lot of women might not understand how drained, literally and figuratively, a man is after ejaculation. Like all desire for sexual activity is just gone in an instant. Story 23. This is totally normal if you are the one doing the moving most of the time. If you do not have a lot of previous experience doing that exercise, you are going to be sore. Sex is no exception. Trust me, if you try riding or something, the next morning you are going to feel like you spent an hour in the gym. Story 24. 9 out of 10 girls just starfish and make the men do all the work. So yes, he is probably telling the truth. Being on top and doing all the motion can make any number of muscles tired when you expect them to do all the movement for 15 minutes to an hour. Story 25. As one friend told me, they told me everything about sex I need to know, but they did not tell me you get so damn tired of it. Could have been just that. Story 26. For me, sex is a euphoric drug. Any physical or mental issue is immediately better with sex, if only temporarily. Stressed from work? Much better after sex. Body pain? It doesn't hurt during and is not as bad after. Head hurt? Not during or after sex. I miss sex for both physical and psychological reasons. The ultimate drug. Story 27. One of the things is that after I have done the deed, I feel awkward and actually just want to be left alone. I know some like to cuddle afterwards, but it just doesn't feel good. My body just screams to me that it wants to be left alone. Story 28. Do any other guys here feel the urge to put their underwear back on soon after? This usually happens to me after a hookup or encounter with someone I'm seeing casually. I don't mean a selfish get dressed and leave immediately because the deed is done kind of thing. I want to be there physically and emotionally for my partner for the after cuddle. But there's this innate biological protective urge. I suspect it's a relic of caveman times where a lone hunter would encounter a female stranger out picking berries or collecting water. They would do the deed, and he would slip away before her tribe returned or a predator encountered them. In modern times, maybe it's a signal that I'm not entirely comfortable or familiar with the surroundings, her place, that, or I don't enjoy lying in messy sheets. Story 29. I have some unidentified systematic nerve disorder, got a neurostimulator implanted because my bladder is affected. It impacts my hands and legs. After sex, I have trouble getting down the stairs and walking is a bit harder too. When I masturbate, I am totally normal. Story 30. I get very tingly. It's weird. I think it is from a dopamine rush. It's 100 times more intense during the end of a longer session. It only happens after actual intercourse and not masturbation. Story 31. Hips are sore? Is he overweight, underweight, or just generally in poor physical condition? I'm in my 40s and definitely don't feel sore, regardless of how long it's been. Truthfully, a lot of men make audible signs like grunting and sharp exhaling to get attention or to indicate that something is on their mind, sometimes good, sometimes bad. First time after 6 months of the relationship, they both obviously took it slow. Maybe he was disappointed that it even happened? Religious, moral unicorn? Or possibly he was disappointed in his performance and wished he did better? Considering the slow course of the relationship, he could have actually lost his virginity and fibbed about his previous experiences. Or maybe the act with her solidified the relationship, and depending on if it had happened before, he may have been trying to psych himself up to drop the love bomb, or doing his best to not drop it because the first time saying it should have better context than right after sex. Either way, short of a physical problem, I'm not buying this whole sore hip thing, and your friend would probably know best if he's out of shape or has a nagging injury. We tend to direct our day-to-day complaining about that stuff toward women because, as tough as we play stuff off together, Our secret favorite part of women is the nurturing and empathy only a romantic partner can provide. Story 32. Yeah, the physical touch thing is definitely something that happens. It's really impossible for it not to happen. The sore hips thing is true. I went through it after being deployed for 2 years. It's a real thing. Story 33. Not much for me. I just need to lie on the bed for a while to catch my breath because my heart starts racing after an orgasm. If it's a hand job while standing in the shower, I get weak legs for a little bit. When I'm close to orgasm, I start leaning into her. My girlfriend thinks I will fall onto her, even though I never have. Story 34. Honestly, it is a workout. If he is a bit weak and not normally in the gym, it's likely his muscles are weak and sore. Or maybe he works out a lot and his hips are very tight, which is also going to be painful since muscles tighten after a workout. But after sex, I get really tired, and I always want more sex. But if my girlfriend is riding me, my muscles will be sore after, especially the inner thigh muscles. Another side effect is once I'm done with my girlfriend, I often also want to have sex with her mom after. I don't know why, but the thought makes me so aroused. Story 35. You may have noticed as he gets closer that his testicles draw up closer to his body. You may also know that they descend down through small openings in the abdominal wall before birth. No one ever warned me that after a really intense orgasm, they might draw up so far they pop back through those openings. The first time it happened, it hurt as much as you might think when squeezing a testicle through a smaller opening, and getting it back out wasn't fun either. The doctor had to explain to me what had happened and that it was common. Now that it's happened more, it's merely a little uncomfortable. It's always fun to tell my new partner she's made me come so hard my testicles retracted and make her feel around the empty sac to prove it. A quick press above the pubic bone and they pop back out before she really starts to panic.